you, but typically, and I haven't seen it too far off for all the services that we've been providing or receiving. It's been averaging anywhere. I mean, the low end probably around 7%. That's not typical. As high as probably 12 or 13%. So the average is around 10% of the project cost is where you typically, at least where we have typically landed with architectural spaces.
I saw the GPD group offers a guaranteed maximum price for one of its delivery methods, which was the CMP method.
Yeah, the construction manager at risk. This guaranteed maximum price is a bit of a hoax, as we found in the high school.
Yeah.
And the reason is they can write in, areas that they can't pin down at the point of giving you the guaranteed maximum price, and they come back and clobber you in those areas. So I'm not, guaranteed maximum price to me doesn't buy anything given our past experience.
And I don't think this project would really, I mean, we could probably go down that path, but I don't think it would require it.
What would be the cheapest delivery?
Which delivery method did we want to go with, or do we have an idea of that?
I think it would just be a bid. We just go out for bids. Once we would have the architect design, the design would be approved by us, the board. And then we would take those design and go out for pricing based on, and then it would be lowest price based on.
So is that the general contracting mode, and the contracts would be directly with the district?
Correct.
Okay.
One thing that's not on the table that you should probably know is that GPD, Ohio School Council, has gone out and vetted architectural firms throughout the state and outside the state. So they went out for the same thing, but to provide architectural services to all their members of the Ohio School Council, 300, 400 school districts throughout the state. And GPD was the award, I'm gonna use the word awarded architect for that. So the second year in a row. So they provide value for their services, at least in the eyes of Ohio School Council. And we use Ohio School Council for numerous things. So what that allows us to do is actually not have to go out to bid out architects. We could just go to Ohio School Council because they already did the vetting, and we could just say, we want to give it to GPD. Now, what I just did is going out to bid, basically. Similar to what Ohio School Council did. They went a little deeper.
What do you think the biggest difference between GPD Group and Van Auken Akins would be? And my apologies, I didn't read through the Van Auken Akins bid package, but if you had to put your finger on it, what do you think of the one thing that made it so that everybody brought GPD to the front?
Personally, this is me personally, you'd have to ask everybody else for their own opinion, but GPD has their own resources. They don't have to go outside their firm for engineers. They have a large group. What I sort of liked about them, and I think it was Alan might have the same opinion, but they're owned by their employees. So if you want to be successful, that's a great way to approach business, right? Your employees are really vested in the success of the company. But in general, for me, it was that a large size of their operation, but they have engineers and everybody at their fingertips, and they seem to have a variety of engineers too, which is, I think, helpful.
And going in the general contractor mode, this is a company where you wouldn't have the overhead of some kind of intermediate management. If you do Van Auken Akin, they're really going to be a construction manager after doing a little bit of architecture. And that's, it doesn't seem cost effective. Something I got to looking for was geotechnical engineering. I kind of worry about the site and the subsurface soil, since you had to muck around with it a fair amount to put the temporary Wiley stuff in. So I don't know what the subsoil condition is. If you feel like it's perfectly well known at this point, then that's one story. But I would tend to worry about it if it's not well known already.
You are correct. It's well known that it's going to be a problem.
Okay, but it's going to be a problem. Okay.
I mean, you remember we had, I don't even want to say the number, but because I would be off, but we had hundreds of the concrete supports for those mobile trailers up there, right? All we did was knock off 8 to 10 inches of those and bury them. So you have to go down to put in concrete. Those could be problematic. So it's well known. We have the original, I have drawings for all of it, and that would all be shared with the architect as they develop this plan.
Okay.
George, can I ask a question and make a comment?
Sure, go ahead.
And again, as I said when I joined the call, I'm sorry I had to miss the last meeting because of the conflict, but could you remind me or us of the exact site at Wiley? Is it the old football field when we're talking about soil in particular?
Correct. If you want, I could jump off this screen. If everybody's comfortable with the knowledge that's up here, I could find actually the drawing that Van Auken Akins did for us. And you are correct, though. It's where the football field was. So where the existing site is, if you were to drive in a driveway and go up the hill,
right,
that flat area there just before the baseball field, we could fit all the buses there. The old site where the buses were before we moved them was down at the base of Wiley. Right behind the building, which is bioswales, which are a concern. We can't get rid of the bioswales because we might not need them all right now because we got rid of a lot of the hard surface, but we're putting hard surface down, so we may need even more.
And would it go up against the Purvis fence?
Yeah, if you can bring up the Van Auken stuff so we can see visually as a map, that's good.
Yeah, give me a minute. But yes, we would not approach the fence. We would actually stay on this side of the current drive. So the drive that goes around the entire site, we would stay on this side of it.
Oh, okay, where the modular buildings were.
So I'll let you keep talking while I try to find them.
I did see that GPD had some solar installs in their track record, and not all of the providers had that at all.
I noticed that too.
Yeah, I'm looking at their website right now, and they appear, even though it's the Akron area, they appear to have some good experience in the, I don't know if you want to call it transportation hub, but they've got they have a nice picture of Akron Metro RTA, which seems like it'd be pretty relevant to what we're talking about.
Right, they had a good array of transportation systems put up. What's striking in GPD is they had no reference letters, which actually was one of on the review questionnaire that we filled out was one of the things is what do their references say?
This is John, and the question came up, why people rated GPD higher than Van Auken Aiken, and really what did it for me was what George said, that they had everybody else was contracting, hiring consultants to do a lot of the engineering work, and GPD did have all of that in house, and that's in projects I've worked on in the past. Having people in different buildings trying to coordinate on a project is challenging. And when they can have all of their internal resources sit around a conference table and hash it out, it tends to make things go a little better.
Your voice is awfully low, John. I don't know if other people are having trouble.
Can everybody see that now? That's the existing Frank Wiley, the old Frank Wiley to the left, where we had the buses parked below the old track. The drawing in the middle shows the 80,000 square foot current at Mayfield Road. That's how many square feet we have for buses to be parked. And in the back, there's cars for employees to park. And to the right was VAA's rendition of how we can get 50 buses on that site and 50,000 square foot. So you can see that this is all existing drive going around that proposed site there. And you can actually see a little bit of Purvis Park there in the basement.
I thought I recalled from the last meeting you talked about there was going to be a detached building to support the new bus depot. Is that true, or am I misremembering?
That's you're correct. That was in the discussion, Alan. We have currently down at Mayfield Road, we purchased the mobile unit that's there and being used by the drivers and as an office and a meeting place in the morning. Since we own it, part of this proposal, I wanted the architect to plan what is the cost of relocating that. The facility is still in great shape. I understand that a mobile unit only has a short lifespan, but if we have the opportunity, we have power out at the site. Because remember, we had 4 huge modular classroom sections out there. So we still have power out there, water and sewer in areas. So getting that unit hooked up would be no problem. But I need to find out, is it worth mounting that thing on mobile trailers and getting it over here and rehooking it up? I think it is, but I would want to see an architect put that in a plan. If not, we'd have to end up selling it. And then I have to make sure I have a place for the drivers to meet every morning. I'm trying to keep the drivers out of the Board of Ed. They were at the Board of Ed at one time. Their office right now has become the archives for the district. So I would like to keep them in a unit up closer to the buses. So I'm hoping that we either can use that modular or in the design see if we can afford having something built within the parking lot area. But again, it's all going to have to be vetted through an architect.
Now, in the Van Auken-Aiken proposal, the statement of qualifications, they had a picture that showed a brown structure with some hallways attached to the Wiley building. Is that relevant to this? Is that new work intended here, or is that something else that I don't know? It wasn't labeled in their graphic. It was just there as a different color. I think I called the page out in my review notes for them.
I didn't get a chance to look at that, Alan, so I can't answer that question right now. There was, as far as I'm concerned, there wasn't a discussion to add on to Wiley any more space. That would be, yeah, I mean, there wasn't a discussion about that. It would be sort of crazy in my mind to do that with having 100-some thousand square foot in Wiley right now not being used. We just redo some of the existing space in there to make that happen instead of adding on to it. But I don't know. To answer your question, I'll have to pull up some old VAA documents and take a look.
George, somewhat related to that, to the left of the drawing on the right, there appear to be are those structures right next to the drawing that's overlaid there?
They actually overlaid that over the middle school classrooms that were still there when they started doing work. So if you see those are no longer there, or the one that's to the left, that's gone also.
Okay. So conceivably, the building you're talking about potentially moving, would go there.
Somewhere in that area, wherever it made sense. I mean, again, one of the biggest hurdles we're going to have as a district, this all has to be worked through the city of University Heights and our planning department, architectural board of review. And they're going to want to, I'm sure, have some sort of say. But that's part of the architect's job. Go work with the city and find out what they're amicable with and where we could put things.
Right. Okay. Thanks.
So prior to all the construction in Wiley, you used the bus garage, the maintenance bays in the Wiley building, and that's what you'll use here in the future. And then similarly for the bus staff, the drivers and stuff, where did they meet before? And is that structure or space still exist?
So going back before we moved anybody, you can see in the Frank L. Wiley drawing there, all the buses were parked there. The drivers actually worked out of the Board of Ed, right next to the mechanics. So the mechanics have a garage at the let's see, east end of the Board of Ed. There's 3 bays there. Into the east of that, attached to the garage is a office space that we had for the drivers. So it's all part of the Board of Ed. Right
Okay.
now, basically.
And that space is available again to use now, or no? I see Molly is shaking her head no.
Molly's shaking her head, rightfully so. I mean, it's there, but we prefer to keep the drivers out. Again, there's so many issues that come along with pulling employees into the Board of Ed, with whether it's I'm supposed to have a custodian or tradesman open the building up. Right now, with the nice thing about having the drivers work out of this modular unit, it's really not covered under a union contract, meaning I don't have to have a custodian in the building to open up the trailer. The drivers can come and go as they please. So we have security there. I have cameras there to sort of make sure things are going right. And Scott Smith, the supervisor's in and out of the facility all the time. But once you open up the Board of Ed, it just opens up different cans of worms. So I would prefer to keep, plus where they park. Again, they're going to want to park as close to where their office is at. If I put all the parking up on the top of the hill and they have to walk all the way down the hill, it's just going to be a lot of union complaints and issues, especially in the winter.
Okay.
I think what Derek pointed out is key. We used to have temporary structures to the left of this proposed parking layout. We could put a different temporary structure somewhere in there with relative ease. It's going to need piers, but there is electricity, there is plumbing still in the ground there to hook it up and have it remain a separate temporary structure. It's a modular. It can be closer to the parking spots. It can be away from the Board of Ed building. We don't have to displace the Heights Alumni Association and the archives. And it's perfectly doable.
No, and that's part of the plan, Molly. That's why I want an architect to sort of look at this. And VAA already knew that when they threw this up there, and we just didn't have them do the modular unit in there.
Yes. Yeah, there's no question. I mean, VAA knows what we've been thinking out loud and what we've been thinking quietly in our heads without saying it.
Now, just to go back and be sure, the service bays, the maintenance bays for the buses, that will be where they were before, and they will be now part of the Wiley building. Is that true?
They're not part of the Board of Ed, Alan. They're not part.
Yeah, there's no reason to change the existing maintenance space because we've got the oil pit or the grease pit, whatever you want to call it, and the high bay doors, and it's all set up.
Right. And so that's what was before we went into construction. You use it during construction and you'll use it now going forward. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
Unless we convince the city of University Heights to pay to build a whole new service garage that looks like something in one of those design proposals. But somehow I doubt that's going to happen.
So really, this is quite a simple project. It's getting down the pavement, or whatever you're going to call it, and potentially some kind of coverings for the buses to park under.
Well, and the covering sort of a thought that one or two or maybe even 3 board members had requested, Alan. It was because the original thought was, again, the cheapest option for us is to put some concrete down with some electrical outlets for the buses, and we would be good to go. But there was a thought, and that's why we want an architect to investigate. What if we built a covered parking? I mean, the drivers and mechanics would all love it. Our buses would last longer. They would be sitting under a structure. Hopefully we include solar panels on top of it, similar to the auto dealership that's down on Mayfield Road, right? They have solar panels covering the entire parking thing. So I think that was the vision. I mean, I know the cost of that could be an issue, but I know that a couple of board members want to know, what is that cost? What would it look like and what would that cost be? So part of what we want an architect to do is investigate that for us.
Yeah, I'm particularly interested in the solar array as a potential part of the project because I just finished doing 2 solar arrays on houses. And if your alignment is correct, I was able to get 95% of the house's current electrical usage covered by panels, free juice after the capital expense. And it's possible that we could generate enough juice for the modular, because they don't have high electrical requirements. It's just a bunch of lighting and data cables for the computers in the modular and heating. But it could potentially make the modular self-sufficient, which I find an interesting idea intellectually, and also something which the community might get behind.
How is the modular unit heated now?
It has a electric furnace
Electric furnace, okay.
and air conditioning, right?
It's a unit that hangs on the side of the building, just like it would be. It's a complete unit, heating and air conditioning.
Okay, so it's exchanging heat to the air or from the air, depending on what season it is.
It also has a
heat pump system,
an electric
electric boost
resistance heat in it also.
A resistance heater. Okay.
Yes.
So in many ways, these proposals described stuff that was well beyond what we're really needing. They're more grand schemes they offered us in their expertise than we'll be harvesting.
And to your point, Alan, these are, for the majority, they're cookie cutters for them. Again, they use these as boilerplates, and then they just cut, there's actually, if you look at them, they'll put like CHUH and the tiger on there to try to personalize them. But
Okay.
a lot of them are almost identical to when I asked for architects 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Except for the one company that thought we were Cleveland Metropolitan Parks or something, right? I was pretty offended by the one who couldn't even get their boilerplate right.
Yeah, there were some typos from that kind of, cookie cutter approach.
Well, yeah, I mean, the least you can do is proofread and get George's name spelled correctly.
Yeah,
they got the automatic, nix from me because they couldn't be bothered to proofread their proposal before they sent it out.
Look, this is John Jansen again. Can you hear me better this time?
Yeah.
Yes, Jim.
Yeah, I just want to, again, I feel like sometimes I'm the voice that keeps bringing this up. This is a back of house type of facility. I think it would be best if we just kept the cost on it as low as possible. I mean, obviously there's some maintenance, long-term maintenance things to think about and look at, but overall, upfront cost needs to be as low as possible on this and get the job done. And anything we can do to reduce the long-term maintenance cost is worth considering. But, overall, this should be a cost-driven project. That's my opinion on it. And I think we just,
That's right.
What's happened on recent projects in the past, we need to show the community, I think, that we can get something done that's useful and inexpensive.
Return on investment number ought to show up for the solar on this. That ought to be a part of what they do.
So I don't know if anybody has any more input, thoughts.
We do have to go back and think about the interviewing more.
Yeah, I had a comment on that. They mentioned the 4 people that would have the availability for the project in the GPD proposal. So maybe that was the people that you would want to bring in for the meeting, since you want to talk to the people that are going to be hands-on with the project, George. I was looking for that. I was just looking back through the proposal to see what those names were.
Can you say that one more time, please?
Yeah, on the GPD proposal, and they had a page about availability from the from the various people on their team that would be available for the project, the lead people. They had 4 names, and I was going to suggest that those were the people that we would bring in for the interview. Let me see if I can find the page that was on the RFQ.
And if you, I don't have the one page in front of me here, but you're correct. It would, it's Jason currently in GPD. A lot of these firms I've dealt with over the 20 years I've been here, Then Design, get on the list there. But currently we're using GPD. They did the parking lots for us, and they listed Jason as he would be the project manager.
And he's listed there too, yeah.
He would be that's the highest I would want to go. Like the guys above them, I'm telling you, I don't need to see him. I personally don't need to see him. The guy that's going to be head boots and giving us the day-to-day services, that's the person I want to get a commitment from.
Okay, got it.
Now, if that's a thought from everybody, I mean, I have no problem accomplishing that myself. If there's people that would be interested in partaking a meeting, I plan on having that face-to-face in person at the Board of Ed. Nothing via Zoom or Google Meets. I plan on being in person with whoever I bring in. So if there's people that want to be involved in that type of meeting, I would be happy to have you sit in.
Could you do where you might be in person with them, and then others of us pipe in by Zoom? Is that an option, or is that really not very workable?
It could be done. I mean, anything could be done.
George, you know I want to be a part of that.
And Taj, you're likely to be in person, right? You're comfortable with being in person or not?
Yes, I am.
And I will happily participate if I can get there. My problem is transportation right now.
Well, I think, how about we go about this way? I would like to set this up with them in early January, probably the 2nd or 3rd week, between the 4th and the 15th. And I could do from that, set up a meeting. I'll get with IT. We can set up some, like, again, it'll be a Google Meet. And if anybody wants to join that via that route. And, I just have to check with probably Mr. Gaynor if I'm doing that and then having a open meeting where you as a committee participates. I don't want to stream this meeting to the public. So if that's the case, then we have to talk, because I think this is more, it's like an interview, and I don't necessarily want to have an interview streamed out to the community. So let me check with Mr. Gaynor on the process and how we could go about it legally and include as many people as we can. And then I can share that out in an email form on do's and don'ts. Does that sound fair?
Is the interview now strictly one, or we're going to do more than one, and if more than one, which ones? Have we settled that?
I'll let you guys speak. I mean, I have my opinion, but I don't want to. You guys can, Daniel, what do you think? From what you've heard?
Obviously, I think the second one would be with Van Auken and Aiken. If we were to have a second one, could it be that you perform the interview with GPD, and then if there are still doubts that linger, plan to do the second one with Van Auken and Aiken?
I'm perfectly fine with that. And if you yeah, wanted my opinion overall, that would be it. I mean, for me personally, if this was just a typical project like we do, I would be fine with just interviewing GPD, and as long as they came across with the right answers that I'm looking for, I wouldn't go any farther. In this circumstance, because I just think if we included VAA at least in the process, it would be, I'm looking for the right word. I don't want to use the word fair. I just think it would be a proper thing to do.
So we'll plan to have then two, one with GPD and then one with Van Auken, scheduled in proximity to each other, or maybe same day, stacked on top. One
Same
meeting.
day. I prefer same day if I can to make it. Yeah. So it's all the thoughts are in one time frame.
All right, then is that settled for the group then? Two architect meetings, GPD, Van Auken.
Does it pay for us as a group to toss out some questions we'd want answered or asked at the session? Kind of get our minds together or win some written questions?
I would appreciate that.
Okay, so that's an invite to everybody to send you questions.
And what I'll do, it's okay, Daniel, I'll send out some possible dates over the next 3 weeks, or again, between the 4th and the 15th, when I think it would work best. It's going to be during hours for people, unfortunately. And then from that, I'll contact these two companies and see which days I can get them both in at the same time, in the same day. And then I could share that out, and in that email, people could send in questions and so on and we'll stuff. And I'll also share what Mr. Gaynor lets me know we can do and we can't do.
That would be great.
So is this area covered?
I think so, unless anybody has any other input into it. Again, I appreciate the input. I think it's going to be valuable, especially moving ahead. This is like the real first project that LFC gets to sort of, take from birth through inception. And we'll hope that, I think it's like you said, Alan, it is a simple project. But I do want to do what the board asked me to do, and that's get thoughts, at least on paper, and dealing with solar and different ideas that our architect can bring to bear here.
Well, I certainly cheer that on, because I think owning the solar makes it a guaranteed money winner in terms of return on investment. Are there
That's
other?
all I had on the agenda was just that. We have New Year's coming up. I think, again, I don't know what people have planned, but I didn't want to really include a whole lot more on there. So Daniel, that unless you have other things.
Should we bring the meeting to a conclusion?
That's up to you, sir.
Yes. Helen, what's the right way to say it again?
You want a motion to adjourn?
Yes, that's it. Motion to adjourn. I want a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Awesome. That's perfect. Daniel, if you can share the minutes with me, I appreciate that. I will then, again, I will communicate out with everyone as we, as I get this stuff together.
All right, I'll do that right after. I got them here, and I'll email you right after this.
Everybody, please have a great and safe New Year.
Thanks, you too, George, and everyone else. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you all.
Oh, wait, that's what I got.